In our last episode, we followed the early life of Elizabeth Báthory. Born into one of the most powerful noble families in 16th century Hungary, we watched her grow up in privilege, marry into power, and manage vast estates while her husband fought endless wars. We heard the first whispers, the quiet, terrified stories of peasant girls who disappeared from her service and never came home. Today, we go inside the stone walls of Castle Csejte, inside the locked rooms that no servant dared discuss, inside the mind of a woman who had begun to do the unthinkable. No monster operates alone. Elizabeth Báthory understood this, and over the years, she gathered around her a circle of loyal, complicit, and deeply disturbed individuals. People who would help her carry out what she could not, or would not, do entirely alone. The first, and perhaps the most trusted, was a woman named Dorothea Szentes. Known as Dorka, Dorka was Elizabeth's personal maidservant, and she was with her through the worst of it. She did not merely witness the horrors. She participated in them. She helped hold girls down. She helped carry out tortures. She was, by every account of the surviving witnesses, Elizabeth's most devoted accomplice. Then there was Ilona Jo, another maidservant, older, equally complicit. Ilona had served Elizabeth for years. Her loyalty was purchased not just in wages, but in the shared secret of what happened behind closed doors. There was János Ujvari, known by the nickname Fico. He was the one who lured girls. He would travel from village to village, making promises of good work, good wages, and a comfortable life in the service of the great Countess Nadezhdy. Many girls believed him. They had no reason not to. He was charming. The promises sounded real, and the girls followed him into the castle. These were not accidental collaborators. They were chosen. They were trusted. They were bound to Elizabeth by the terrible weight of shared guilt, and by the knowledge that if she fell, they fell with her. What happened inside Castle Csejte was documented in painstaking detail during the trials that followed Elizabeth's arrest. The testimonies of over 300 witnesses paint a portrait of cruelty that is almost impossible to comprehend. Let us begin with the words of Benedek Deseo, the head of operations at Castle Csejte. He was not tortured. His testimony was given freely. Deseo testified that Elizabeth Báthory took a shoemaker's daughter named Ilonka, stripped her naked, and began to torment her. She took a knife, and beginning with the fingers, shoved the blade into both of the girl's arms. She flogged her repeatedly. She took a burning candle to her skin, and held it there. She continued, Deseo said, until the girl was dead. He also testified that Elizabeth would take a sewing needle, and use it to cut her way up the arm of a girl who could not sew. As punishment, for a skill she had never been taught, she withheld food and water from her victims for days, until they were so thirsty, so weakened, so broken, that they could barely lift their heads. Another witness, Lady Barbara Bixby, testified that she watched Bathory beat girls, cut their bodies, and stab them repeatedly with needles. She watched her press stinging nettles into open wounds. She testified that she does not know the names of all the girls, because, in general, the girls were grabbed from anywhere and brought there. Grabbed from anywhere. The full list of methods documented in the trial records is almost too dark to speak aloud. But they must be spoken, because these were real people, real girls, who suffered them. Severe beatings with wooden cudgels, needles inserted into lips, arms, shoulders, and beneath fingernails. Flesh cut from the body. Red-hot pokers and burning irons used to scorch arms and abdomens. Knives plunged into arms and feet, fingers severed with scissors and shears. And one of the most chilling of all, girls made to stand naked in the freezing Hungarian winter, then doused with water, until the water froze on their skin, until they froze to death. Elizabeth did not hide in the shadows while these things happened. She was present, she directed, she participated, and according to multiple witnesses, she watched, and was satisfied. One of Elizabeth's accomplices, Dorothea Szentes, provided a testimony that captures something deeply revealing about Elizabeth's character. She said that Elizabeth would take long needles and push them slowly into the fingers of her victims. Deliberately, methodically, watching the girl's face as she did it, and then she would say, "If it hurts the whore, she can pull it out." If the girl, in her pain, in her desperation, actually pulled the needle out, Elizabeth would then cut off that finger with a knife. There was no mercy. There was no exit. Whatever a girl did in response to pain, it only led to more pain. The cruelty was not random. It was constructed. It was designed to eliminate all hope. A witness named Thomas Nyariharto testified that he saw a girl with terrible injuries. The flesh between her fingers and on her arm had been torn out, the tendons destroyed. When another witness asked the girl what had happened to her hand, she replied, "The lady widow Nadezhdy had done it." One of the most heartbreaking testimonies from the trial comes from a man named Janos Deseo, the warden of Castle Csejte. His niece, a young woman named Kata Bereni, had been accepted into service at Elizabeth's court. Deseo had heard rumors, troubling ones, that his niece was being mistreated. He wanted to see for himself. He learned that Kata would be traveling with Elizabeth's party to Castle Csejte. He rode out to intercept them before they left. When he found the group on the road, he approached Elizabeth directly. He begged her, respectfully, formally, to allow him to see his niece before the journey. He wanted to give her money. He wanted to make sure she was safe. Elizabeth allowed the meeting, and when Deseo saw his niece, he wept. She was dejected. She was crying. She was freezing cold. Whatever had already been done to her in Elizabeth's service had broken something in her, that her uncle could see plainly on her face. Deseo fell to his knees. He begged Elizabeth, in the name of God, in the name of all his relatives, to let Kata go, to release her from service, to give her back. Elizabeth looked at him coldly and said, "I certainly will not give her back. She has already escaped from me 3 times. All the more, I will kill her." Deseo testified, Bathory indeed took her away, and never brought her back, tormenting her so much, that she died. As more testimonies emerged, investigators began to grapple with something almost impossible to process. This was not a matter of a few deaths. This was not an isolated incident. This had been going on for decades. The Castellan of Castle Csejte testified that he knew of at least 175 girls and women who had died at that castle alone. Another Castellan at the same castle testified that he had heard the actual number was over 200, if not already mounting to nearly 300, and those numbers only accounted for one castle. Elizabeth Báthory had multiple castles. She had tortured and killed in all of them. During the trial of her accomplices, the highest number cited was 650 victims, a figure said to come from a private book kept by Elizabeth herself, in which she recorded each death. The book was never produced as evidence, but the servant who spoke of it said she had seen the figures with her own eyes. 650 victims. If that number is even partially true, Elizabeth Báthory would rank among the most prolific serial killers in recorded human history. But here is the question that haunts this story. Was all of this real? Were the testimonies true? Were the numbers accurate? Or was something else happening? Something political. Something calculated. Something that used Elizabeth Báthory as a pawn in a game of power far larger than any of us have imagined? Join us in episode 3, where we go deeper into the darkness and ask the question that changes everything. Was Elizabeth Báthory truly the Blood Countess? Or was she framed? Subscribe to Story Hour USA. Leave a comment below. Do you think she was guilty? Or was this a political conspiracy? We want to know what you think.